Let's see. Let's tune into CNN if they're covering it or not. Netanyahu's warplane is out. It's in the air. Drones are on their way.
That gives Israel.
According to Elint News, we have 6 hours for the drones go all the way over to make it all the way to Israel. Iraqi security officials have confirmed that dozens of one-way suicide drones have been detected over southern and eastern Iraq after entering via Iranian airspace, and that they are heading west. So let's see where this goes. Video retweeted by Osin account. Unknown drones over Diyala Governorate, northern Baghdad. I don't know what's happening there. I don't know I don't know if that's a real one or not. But will the Turkish U.S. bases will drag Turkey into it? I mean, we'll see. Depending on how Israel retaliates, because remember, Israel is the country that bombed technically Iranian soil in Damascus, in Syria, by bombing the Iranian consulate compound. This was a direct violation of international law. This was a direct violation and also a major escalation in this conflict. It's not about Israel showing restraint. It's about what America does. It was about what America does from the jump. I talked about this extensively yesterday. The fact that Joe Biden, after October 7, gave a bear hug and no red lines approach to Benjamin Netanyahu caused Israel to feel like they could do whatever the fuck they wanted, and they could very easily bring America into the conflict. Okay? And they violated numerous red lines, as you guys know, both the ethnic cleansing in Gaza, but beyond that, way more severe red lines that they violated, such as striking Beirut, Lebanon, not just southern Lebanon, but straight up striking Beirut, and then another red line when they struck the Iranian consulate and the Iranian consulate compound in Syria, in Damascus.
And which earlier tonight updated its guidance to Israeli civilians, limiting public gatherings in northern Israel as well as the Israeli communities surrounding the Gaza Strip, also closing schools for the coming days. But it does now appear, as we've been anticipating this potential Iranian response, that we at least now know the first chapter of that response and the form that it is beginning to take. We also know that Israeli government officials in recent days have been warning that an Iranian attack from Iranian soil onto Israeli soil would result in a commensurate Israeli response, meaning an Israeli attack on Iranian soil. So we will have to see how this all plays out, to what extent Israel is able to intercept those drones using its air defense capabilities. A lot of questions, but we are starting to get the beginning of the answers in terms of what exactly this Iranian attack, what shape it is beginning to take.
Yeah, what it might look like. Okay, Jeremy, stay with us. I want to go back to Mark Esper for a second because, Mark, we're kind of digesting what Jeremy is just telling us now, and I want to get your take on a couple of things. First of all, the fact that it's going to take several hours for these drones to get there. What does that mean in terms of being able to shoot these down, to prepare for them?
Apparently, a second drove. State Link Media reports second wave of drones launched at Israel. State Link Media in Iran is reporting that a second wave of drones has been launched by the Islamic Republic at Israel. Israel has a right to defend itself is going to be the meta again.
All of the principles in the American national security establishment, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Lloyd Austin, Jake Sullivan, all of these officials arriving at the White House soon for this very high stakes meeting as these drones make their way towards their target. Now, we did know from American officials ahead of this occurring that they had detected Iran moving military equipment within its territory, including drones and cruise missiles. It wasn't clear at that point whether that was a deterrent, posturing, or whether they actually intended to launch them from their own soil into Israel or towards Israeli targets. That is now becoming clearer. We also knew that the American military was repositioning its own assets in the region in part to help Israel shoot down anything that was fired its way. And so as the U.S. watches in real time as these drones head towards their targets, they will certainly be hoping to intercept them and help Israel in that way. That has been President Biden's key message over the last week as he talked about this significant attack in the offing, was that American support for Israel would be ironclad. Despite his current differences with the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he's essentially said that that wouldn't get in the way of American support for Israel in the case of Iranian reprisals. So certainly the U.S. watching this very closely, but also watching very closely what Israel will do next.
Whoever hurts us, we hurt them. We will protect ourselves from any threat and will do so with coolness and determination. I know that you, citizens of Israel, are also keeping your cool. I urge you to listen to the directives of the Home Front Command. Together we will stand, and with God's help, together we will overcome all our enemies.
And we have Rory Challens, who's joining us now from occupied East Jerusalem. Rory, I believe we're just going to show some pictures of there. Rory, I'll come back to you in a second, but that is a live picture from the joint base Andrews over in the U.S., and that's the president in the helicopter right there, President Biden. So arriving now at the joint base Andrews as this developing story is ongoing with Iran launching drones towards Israel. Now we'll bring in Rory Challens. He's joining us from occupied East Jerusalem, following all the developments from there for us. So Rory, you've also been listening to the military radio in Israel. What have they been saying at this time?
People here would be very surprised if it was just a drone strike, and that's what is being reflected on Israeli military radio at the moment as well. If this is just a drone, then the expectation is that Israel's multi-layered air defense system could probably deal with it fairly effectively. But they don't think that it will be just drones. They think that Iran will most likely use drones as an initial barrage, and then there might be a follow-up with ballistic or cruise missiles. Now, Iran will have been watching what's been going
the drones
on
are
in
probably
Ukraine very
to
closely over
expand
the last year or two. And what the Russians have
the
been
drones
doing
are
is exactly
slower
that.
moving.
They
It's a way to
use,
expand their iron deplete their Iron Dome if they even get there.
that
Obviously,
Iran
it might not
has
even get there because Israel is saying that they are going to utilize the American. They're going to be utilizing the American resources in the region as well. Like their goal is to take out as much of the anti-air systems as possible, or deplete them as fast as possible, while simultaneously lobbing, I assume, faster moving rockets, missiles,
to shoot those down. So it means there's a greater chance that the missiles, be they cruise or ballistic, get through and hit their targets.
That's not true. They use different systems for bigger missiles.
Israel has
I know
a
they do.
much better system of air defense than Ukraine currently has. It has a multi-layered defense system, which includes Iron Dome, which we all know about because that gets set off very frequently to deal with rockets when they come from
He's going to describe it now.
in Lebanon, and also
He's going to talk about the larger the defense systems they have for larger rockets.
Air defense systems that Israel has as well, one called David Sling and another one called Arrow 2 and Arrow 3. And together these make up a kind of what's called a multi-layered air defense system, which means that they deal with different threats in different ways. Now, Israel's air defense systems have been well tested against things like rockets, Katyusha rockets, that sort of thing. They're less well tested against.
Oh, finally, we got the weirdos in here again. So you're rooting for Iran. If this prompts a response from the U.S., it could mean economic collapse and further escalation. Iran controls oil exports. Millions could die. It's not good that Iran escalated now. Bitch, what the fuck do you mean? If you're mad that Iran retaliated to Israel, you should be incredibly angry at Joe Biden and incredibly angry at Israel for literally fucking getting it to this level. for allowing
drones
Israel to
get
feel
from their
comfortable
launch sites
in
Iran,
drawing the United
to
States
Israel,
into
assuming
this
that there
broader
haven't been any
conflict.
launched from closer by.
Iran didn't
Okay,
escalate.
Rory,
Iran
stand by just a
retaliated.
moment.
If
We'll
Clarissa
bring in
Ward
Heidi
on
Jocasta
fucking
joining us.
CNN can understand that fact, if Clarissa Ward on CNN is saying that Iran is trying to retaliate in an even fashion so that they do not draw an even larger response from Israel, you should be able to understand that too. Except the difference for you is that you're not in it to make genuine assertions here. You're just in it to fucking get a clip out after trolling me so you can post it on a fucking subreddit and be like, look, Hasan is in support of complete global collapse. He loves Iran. He's a fundamentalist Islamist terrorist lover. That's your goal. Iranian attack involves hundreds of drones, senior Israeli official tells Barak Ravid as of now. It is wild to assume that a regional actor that has developed its weapons capabilities specifically for this purpose is not going to retaliate when their own soil is struck. The Damascus consulate compound is Iranian soil. Israel greatly escalated it. The reason why you didn't hear about it is because mainstream media barely covered it. It was a blip when it was a major move. The United States' response to Israel's major move was to say, oh, they didn't tell us. That's really fucked up that they didn't tell us ahead of time. This is awful. This is going to possibly ruin the lives of many people in Israel. It's probably going to ruin the lives of many people in Iran. And would, if, depending on what happens after this, depending on how this round of retaliation goes and how Israel chooses to escalate, and given that they've been fucking violent and belligerent from the jump, which caused this retaliation to happen to begin with, I worry that this will have global consequences. I hope not. But the next couple of days will determine the future of this planet. It can be a tempered approach. The United States will rein in Israel and say, listen, they took pot shots back at you after you took pot shots. You just got to fucking take the L here. Or it can mean full-scale global conflict.
Time it was announced, saying that it was to protect U.S. forces and also to deter this type of escalation from Iran. Now that this moment appears to be unfolding, we will soon find out how the U.S. is planning to respond to this, to come to Israel's defense, as its top officials have vowed.
Okay, Heidi,
I have a little faith in the USA that
that
can handle this appropriately. The reason why this is happening today is because the USA has not handled it appropriately. If Anthony Blinken, like he tweeted on October 8th, urged Israel to de-escalate and urged restraint for Israel, if that tweet had been kept up after that meeting with Hakan Fidan, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, after Anthony Blinken and Hakan Fidan had a conversation on October 8th, that was something that Anthony Blinken tweeted and deleted very quickly. If that was the attitude from October 8th, it would have never gotten to this point, because Israel would know that there are red lines. Israel would know that there are boundaries that they cannot cross if they demand unconditional support from the United States of America. Biden, on the other hand, reaffirmed his commitment to Israel, said that there were no red lines, symbolically bear-hugged Benjamin Netanyahu, and said, go all out. You've watched what Israel has done in the last 6 months after that. When you tell Israel no red lines, they're going to keep crossing the red lines that other regional actors have drawn. Understandable red lines that other regional actors have drawn. You let the dog off the leash. The Israeli military command and control headquarters is placed right in the center of the densely populated stronghold of Tel Aviv. Yep. If the world is destroyed by a nation with restaurants called Hello Food, that is hilarious. I don't find it to be that funny. I mean, I get the irony of it, but it is wild to me that a nation with the greatest exports being surveillance technology, Waze, and techno music, like the absolute worst DJs per capita you've ever fucking seen, is going to bring about the actual demise of the entire Western world is wild to me. Not going to happen most likely. We shall see. But holy fuck, it is wild to think. Oh, here is our favorite Barak Ravid. Let's see what he has to say.
That would give the greatest possible chance for U.S. forces to intercept them, of course, depending on their route, or they could try to come over Saudi Arabia and through Jordan to try to minimize the possibility of U.S. intercepts there.
Okay, official IRGC statement. Breaking. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps releases a statement. In response to the crime of the Zionist regime and the attack on the consular section of the Iranian embassy in Damascus, the IRGC Air Force hit certain targets in the territories of the Zionist regime with dozens of drones and missiles. That's what they said.
Actually, I'll pick up on what my colleague Jeremy Diamond was talking about here. Israel itself has a layered aerial defense system. Its long-range aerial defense would be the Arrow 3 interceptor. That would intercept ballistic missiles and can work out of the atmosphere. We have seen that used, if I'm not mistaken, over the course of the past 6 months to intercept certain launches coming from or coming down the Red Sea from the Houthis in Yemen. That's the long-range interceptor, Arrow 3. The medium-range interception system is David's Sling. That is very similar to the U.S. THAAD system. That is also stationed at different points in the country. And then the short-range interception system that we've seen used so many times, not only over the course of the past 6 months, but in the past as well, is Iron Dome. And that intercepts within a few dozen miles here. Certainly that would be able to intercept these drones. The real question is, and this is what we've been speculating and wondering about, these drones will take hours to get there. Cruise missiles could arrive much faster, within a couple of hours perhaps, and then ballistic missiles are within a few minutes. So it still remains an open question. Is this it? Or is there more coming, and could Iran try to coordinate a number of different types of weapons to hit at the same time? That, of course, is what we're waiting to see here as these drones make their way over what will be an hours-long process to reach their targets.
Fightux News says, breaking, Iranian drones began crossing Iraqi airspace and approached Syria and Jordan. The missile attack will begin soon, Iranian sources tell Iran's semi-official Fars news agency. So, did he say alleged consulate?
That Israel will then retaliate against Iran itself. Now, this could have also been predicted because the attack that Israel carried out against that building in Damascus was carried out from Israeli soil. So what we're seeing here, I think, is a very calculated, very calibrated, but very significant retaliation by Iran. And Iran has been doing, I think, a pretty good job at telegraphing what its intentions are. The United States, a variety of European countries, Arab countries,
Turkey.
This is
shocking.
In the days
this
leading
is
up
like
to
coverage
today,
that I'm not
all
expecting.
been telling Iran, do not escalate this conflict. But at the same time, there was a recognition that Iran would have to respond to that attack last week. They would have to save face. But despite what we're seeing right now, Jessica, there is no real sense that Iran wants to widen this conflict. And so it's going to be very interesting in the coming hours, as the White House has just said, to see what kind of weaponry they add to this, if it's just the drones.
How much faster are missiles than drones? Is it expected missiles will follow up the drones? Yes, they're much faster.
Neighboring countries to Israel joining the fight, what the targets they go after are, and then whether there are other Israeli targets in other countries like embassies. So we are starting to get a lot more of the answers that we've been looking for, but so many questions remain. Jessica.
Famously, by the way, Israel making the world very safe for Jewish people living in Israel. Once again, just remember that fucking line that no Jew in the world would be saved without Israel. Doesn't seem so safe for the Jews living in Israel right now. Doesn't seem safe for anyone living in Israel or anyone living in America even. And it's kind of wild because this kind of belligerent action in the region was, of course, going to draw up some kind of response, some kind of retaliation. It's weird. It's weird to think that, like, every single thing I've been saying for fucking years about Israel is just basically coming to fruition as Israel has felt more galvanized year over year over year, especially after the Trump administration and definitely with the Biden administration as well. Absolute chaos happening to commercial traffic rerouting as airspaces are closed for Israel, Jordan, and Iraq. Mass diversion of flights are happening over Western Turkey over the past few minutes as Iraq closes one of the busiest air lanes in the Middle East. Oh, here's another part, by the way. This I saw this on. Yeah, this is N12. IDF bombed dozens of targets in 3 areas of Lebanon, according to N12 News, while everyone is like looking at what the fuck is going to happen with the Iranian retaliation. They might just be doing that specifically because they are worried about a Hezbollah attack as well coming in unison with the IRGC. Jordan declares state of emergency. Likely many other drones and missiles may fly over Jordanian territory. I think they also said that they would strike down drones and missiles that go over their airspace, right? Yeah. Iranian chatter here. Some unofficial Iranian news sources are speculating the drones will be in Israel about 2 hours. Well, we know it's longer than that. I think it's going to take longer than that since it started. Didn't Elant News say it was 6 hours? Do you think the IDF are using this as a distraction now? Would they go ahead with Rafah? No, dude, this is not a distraction. This is an expected consequence of the Israeli military action in the region, specifically striking the Iranian consulate compound in Damascus. That is Iranian soil, killing Iranian officials. That is an act of war against a foreign adversary, a regional actor that demands retaliation. If anything, this is not about like invading Rafah. They're going to have their hands busy with this shit. So instead of invading Rafah, it actually is more so about drawing the United States into the broader conflict now, which they have. They officially have. N12 reporting that this third wave was launched from Hamadan and reports of interceptions already in Syria. There is now officially a third wave of Iranian drones launched at Israel. Holy shit. And the Lebanese chat is asking, like, I'm in Lebanon. I don't know what Israel will do. Will this be bad? There's a high likelihood, considering that I often say the madman theory is not the Nixon madman theory, but like approaching regional actors as not rational actors, but instead belligerent, violent, bloodthirsty monsters leads to bad analysis. Okay? It does. And the reality is, for Israel, they are as close to a belligerent, violent actor as you can possibly get. And even then, there is still some rationale behind the moves that they're making. The rationale, albeit possibly a miscalculation, okay, albeit miscalculation, is, I assume, bringing the United States into Iran launched third round just moments ago. I know, I already checked your chat. We already covered that. Yes, a third wave of drones have also been launched from Iran. Syria puts air defenses around Damascus and major bases are on high alert, according to Reuters. I said this a couple days ago, but it does seem, I might be totally off base on this, but it does seem like, given the fact that Iran very clearly spelled out that this would be a retaliation against Israel for the Damascus strike, that their response, while to you guys from afar looks like, you know, overkill, so many drones, is most likely going to try to strike an Israeli target of equal worth. The reason why they're sending hundreds of drones, of course, in 3 different salvos is because Israel, alongside with coalition forces, has tremendous defenses. So they're trying to get through it. That's the reason why. Most of those drones are not going to make it. Some of them will be intercepted above Syria. Some of them will be intercepted above Iraq. And some of them will be intercepted near Israel. Okay? You sound like you are condoning attacking Israel, aka civilian population. I genuinely don't understand how you can be at the precipice of World War III and still be interested in trying to farm a clip. Literally. That's wild to me. That is actually wild to me. That, you know, there are hundreds of drones currently heading in the direction of Israel. And there are still chatters in here who are like, I can't wait to get a clip off here. I can't wait to get a fucking clip off here. This is going to pop off on Reddit. I have never, oh my God. Just ban and move on. These people are freaks. I know. I wonder why he's actually a subscriber too. Well, you can't clip anymore. Probably not because he wants to avoid the top of the hour ad break. Probably he is a subscriber because he wants to clip shit and be able to post it on subreddits. But World War III or not, a 3-minute ad break still comes at the top of the hour.